YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after another NFL upset. It's the year of the upset, apparently. Thursday Night Football, the Dolphins take down the Ravens. Somewhat dominating fashion. I mean, definitely from the defense there, so it's definitely surprising. Maybe the Dolphins' defense is back. I'm going to give you my takeaways, my thoughts, what went wrong for the Ravens, what to expect going forward, what I loved about the Dolphins, mainly positives there. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on, full NFL coverage here. We got weekly picks, power rankings, everything you can think of. Follow us on Twitter. Always talking during live games, talking a bunch last night. My thoughts kind of live as they happen. So check out the Twitter. Link down below, description comments if you're interested. We much appreciate it. The start of this game, the Ravens worked the field pretty easily, and they only end up with 3, so credit to the Dolphins' red zone defense there. But it looked like the Ravens were going to get 7 easy, and this was going to be game over. So it felt like for just a tiny, small sample size of a moment there early. And then it just kind of flipped since then, and it's just that Dolphins blitz game. You do have to give credit to Brian Flores and this coaching staff for the defensive game plan. But honestly, it's sort of their game plan every week. I think they had made it a point to blitz more this game, and especially the safeties. Wild stat: the safeties blitzed 38 total times, just between Javon Holland and Brandon Jones, which is pretty ridiculous. 38 times. There's NFL teams. I think the Raiders have blitzed the least in the NFL, and they're in the 40s, I believe. So the Dolphins' safeties blitz almost as many times as a team like the Raiders did on the whole year, which is pretty ridiculous, pretty mind-blowing stat. But everyone's different for a reason. Everyone has different matchups for a reason. So that was the game plan, and it worked. I guess you kind of look back. The Ravens haven't really seen. Lamar Jackson hasn't really seen that blitz this year. So something a little bit new. I mean, when he has seen the blitz, he honestly hasn't been too well. Hasn't done too well throwing versus the blitz this year. Actually, one of the lower graded quarterbacks against the blitz this year, but hasn't seen anything like that. And you definitely can't put that all on Lamar. Didn't have a lot of time, and that offensive line just wasn't built for that blitz, and that might be a problem going forward, though. Will they play a Dolphins-heavy blitz team? No, they won't play the Dolphins again. The Buccaneers blitz more than them, but they don't play them either. But it might be in the game plan against the Ravens moving forward because they don't seem to do too well against it. But, definitely the right game plan for the Dolphins. Safeties, like I said, were used quite a bit in the blitz, mainly Javon Holland, 21 blitzes from him. He was definitely a factor, getting pressures, getting QB hits, which was, making Lamar throw the ball just up for grabs or throwing it away. Or, they just couldn't get their plays developed, because of that blitz. And, the whole defense played well. I mean, you look up front, the Dolphins stopped the run on early downs. It's tough to figure out. Well, I'd say I'm saying I'm most impressed with the corners, or the corners are who you should be most impressed by. And people will disagree. Well, they look at Xavier Howard and they look at the ridiculous play that he forced a fumble, scooped his own fumble, and a ridiculous return for a touchdown. But let's even take that away. Let's just talk about Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, how they played in this game. And Byron Jones gave up some catches, but the corners are the most important position in this type of defense. The Ravens run a similar style defense because you're running a lot of cover zero. The safeties are in the box. The safeties are blitzing. So what does that mean? You don't have safeties over the top. The corners are on an island by themselves. They're a man coverage, one-on-one. It's fairly easy to get separation in man coverage. You always see those grades or receptions or yards versus man coverage. Sometimes Pro Football Focus tweets them out, and everyone goes nuts. Oh, this guy's so good because it's impressive, but every NFL receiver should be able to get open against man coverage. It's not supposed to be the hardest thing. What is supposed to be one of the hardest things in football is playing man coverage as a cornerback and having no help over the top. And these corners lock them down. You're only able to run this defense if they can do that. The blitz can come in, but if guys got quick separation, blitz won't even matter, And, of course, they don't have to cover for too long if the blitz is that successful, which was the case here. Tighten coverage. Blitz came in pretty quickly, unblocked a lot of times. So that kind of goes back to the Ravens offensive line. coaching staff just not being able to make adjustments to pick up the blitzes. I mean, we saw Javon Howland line up in the box over and over again, and he blitzed. I wonder what the percentage of times he blitzed when he was in the box. It's probably a very large percentage, and they just couldn't figure out how to pick him up. Nobody just wanted to touch him, basically. So, it kind of goes back to a poor job by the Ravens there. But then, I mean, like I said, I don't know what the most important spot of this Dolphins defense was. I mean, the safeties and whoever was blitzing, executing is big. Again, the corners had a lockdown and coverage. But you look at the run defense, which is actually, even when the Dolphins defense was good last year, struggled a little bit. And they were great. Guys like Christian Wilkins, just dominant up front. I don't know if he racked a bunch of tackles, but he did a good job kind of sealing off lanes, gaps, mirroring Lamar Jackson or whoever it was, Devontae Freeman. So they stopped the run. And it's in a defense like this, it's so important to stop the run on early downs. The first thing you have to do is stop the run to be able to run this defense, because you're not going to pass blitz on an obvious running down or a down that, might be a run. You have to get to that second and long or third and long or even third and medium situation to know it's a pass, to be able to run that cover zero defense, to run that pass blitz defense. And they had some successful run blitzes as well, so credit to them for that. To credit the Dolphins, Flores, that defense for that. But they had to stop the run first to be able to do this. So, that's why, this defense, it looked great. It looks like the Dolphins defense is back to maybe last year. I mean, one of the more dominant performances in general in football in the year. It's pretty refreshing to me to see a dominant, from a neutral fan point. It's pretty refreshing to see a dominant defensive performance like that. I don't think we see a lot of that anymore. I'm more of a defensive guy too, so I kind of get you jacked up to see a defense just fired up and playing that well. But a ridiculous game. But again, that's the thing with the Dolphins. I know people are going to say they're back, and they definitely got momentum, and they definitely got some ball players, and I think they're definitely going to be better going forward. But are they, back? Are they going to be playing like that every week? I wouldn't expect it because, again, a lot has to happen for that defense to work. It's a very dominant defense if things work. You got to stop the run early downs. The corners got to be on their game, not allowing separation, and the blitz has to not be picked up or they have to beat the offensive line, which they did in this game. So a lot has to happen. And we did see the Ravens mainly early in the game. Why were they running so many screens? Everyone's saying, why are they running so many screens? Sometimes against cover zero, when you read it, if you throw a screen, because there's only corners out there. Everybody else, including the safeties, are crashing in. So it's only corners out there. If you hit your blocks or if there's one missed tackle, think about the space. There is an insane amount of space. That's why the Ravens kept running the screen. But back to the Dolphins, and what might be one of the more important parts of the game is it kind of goes back to the corners, because the corners are out there getting off blocks and making tackles, not missing. I mean, how many tackles the Dolphins missed in this game? It's not many. It could be one of the least amount on the season for any team here. So trying to figure out what was more of the key. We wake up this morning and everyone says it's the blitz. And it's true. The blitz was dominant. It worked. It works against the Ravens, but there's more that sets up that, in my opinion, that was more important. So, and again, the load of screens from the Ravens early on, those went for a ton of yards, and they stopped them there. And there was a point where the screens just weren't working, and they kind of kept going to them. So I don't know if I agree with that with the Ravens, but I understood what they were trying to do. On top of that, Lamar didn't have time to throw downfield, and the receivers weren't getting separation downfield. So I guess it makes some sense. Where I can rip the play calling, Greg Roman here, I think they should have ran Lamar on early downs. Again, the Dolphins were starting to stop the run on early downs to force the pass. It was mainly what guys like Devontae Freeman outside the first drive, Le'Veon Bell. If they would have ran Lamar, got him outside on early downs. And again, when they did do that, the Dolphins stopped them. But I think the Ravens could have done it more. Definitely thought they could have done it more, and that could have changed some things that could have forced not obvious passing downs. You want to avoid obvious passing downs. There's too many teams that, I don't know if the Ravens really do it in general this year, but there's too many teams that play for third down and play for those obvious passing downs. If it's going to be third down, you want it to be, it might be a run, it might be a pass. Who the hell knows? Dolphins thinking too much in this case. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't actually the case. The Ravens didn't force that. The Dolphins forced them to have problems. So, and then where I could rip the coaching staff a little bit is just having the team unprepared. the Dolphins blitz. The Dolphins, maybe they blitz more in this game than they have been. I think it's more the safeties they blitz more than they have been. But they always blitz since Brian Flores came in. So it should have been the game plan, and I'm sure the Ravens coaches have had to go over it. These players just didn't look prepared, and that goes to the players too. Guys blowing coverages. Honestly, people will blame the coaches for that, but it's week 10, and the coaches can't be holding guys' hands and telling them what coverage it is mid-play. It's not possible. These guys got to know what to do here. So they were confused by emotion there at Albert Wilson. That was kind of the dagger because the Ravens got back in it, and Albert Wilson just got loose and scored on that. And it definitely wasn't Chuck Clark's man. I know they were saying on air that it was Chuck Clark's guy, but he was supposed to stay home there. So it was somebody on the opposite side of the field. It could have been Patrick Queen, could have been Brandon Stevens, one of the two. But yeah, I guess that was a little confusing. But why are we blowing coverages there if you're the Ravens? So what did I like from the Ravens? I think the defensive line did pretty well. I mean, you should be able to stop the run for the most part for the Dolphins. But a guy like Calais Campbell, Justin Houston contributed in getting after the quarterback, stopping a run. Rashad Bateman was kind of a bright spot. He kind of got going late, but good hands. Good contested catchability, crucial down situation. But in general, the receivers weren't getting a lot of separation. They didn't have a lot of time to get separation because Lamar was getting attacked. But you got to understand the blitz is. You got to have awareness. The blitz is coming. Change your route. Get open underneath. You're in one-on-one coverage. The corners. If you can't get open, if you can't get separation versus the corner, I don't care who the corners are. In man coverage, like ever. Those corners are just a lot better football players. It's not even close because you have the advantage. The receiver is supposed to have the advantage. They're one-on-ones. They got to get separation. So, again, Bateman's a bright spot, promising for the future. Even everybody wasn't getting separation early, though, so I guess including him. Watkins had a pretty poor game. He could have caught a touchdown pass early in the game, kind of gave up on the ball, maybe he lost it. And then he had that fumble, which Howard returned for 6. So that was a bad game for Sammy Watkins. Offensive line was terrible, missing blocks, refusing to pick up the blitz, but then still missing their own blocks, pretty bad. No adjustments again. Unprepared. It kind of goes in the coaching staff. Lamar struggled a little bit. Kind of going back to receiver separation. They didn't get enough. They need to get more. I know they didn't have time to, but man coverage they should. But the times they did, I thought Hollywood Brown kind of was here and there. And Lamar was kind of underthrowing him, and so Lamar didn't play the best game either. Kind of flustered under pressure, but just really trying to carry the team too much. And it kind of sticks with us. Like I said, the key for other teams are they're going to watch the film and they're going to blitz a lot more. But it's not always going to work because not everyone's going to blitz. Not everyone's going to blitz like the Dolphins. Not everyone is as good as – there's better defenses. There's definitely better defenses than the Dolphins, but they're not as good as blitzing like the Dolphins. So it's not like it's always going to work. But on top of that, it kind of makes you think, the Ravens are supposed to be – they were the second best team in the AFC going into this game. They're supposed to be a legit contender. When you get to the playoffs, it's about going, staying consistent, playing your best ball game after game after game, Super Bowl, doing it again. If Lamar has to do this much, carry this much, and even when there's no answer and, he ends up getting flustered, like they're not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to go game after game, out game plan the other teams, outplay the other teams on all levels. They're just not going to be able to do it, So it's you don't want to base too much off one game, but it's a little bit of a dagger there, as well. And I think the big problem is the offensive line. Again, they just had no answer. And I know everyone blaming Roman for the play calls. Play calls weren't great, but when you have no answer, it's what are you supposed to draw up in a lot of those situations? What are you exactly supposed to draw up? More of the offensive line coaching could be a problem there. I know they're injured. But just getting these guys to pick up the blitz, like they just weren't doing it, So it's a big problem. Blown coverages again. That's more on the players. It just shouldn't happen. Week 10. Come on now. Circling back to the Dolphins. What did I not touch? I touched on all of that pretty much. Tua got thrown in the situation, and he struggled the first try, missing some throws. There was times even within he didn't incomplete too many passes, but even within the game, there was times where he threw it, and I was kind of like, who's that to? And you saw like Gesicki and Shaheen maybe looking at each other, or Mac Hounds, like, who is that to? So there's still kind of those moments. The times he was pressured, he was panicking a little early. And that kind of goes back to, I was saying a few weeks ago, and everyone's ripping on Tua that, or people are kind of bringing up that they should have taken Herbert over Tua. And, my point is Tua has the talent. I still think he has the talent. I always question the injury, that gruesome injury, and if that affected his, in his head. And I still think that's kind of what it is. And we'll see if he can overcome that. I still think the talent's definitely there. It's definitely there. He's not throwing for 300 or 400 yards a game. Well, I don't know if he has the opportunity, but I still think he's in his head a little bit. I see like the footwork and a little bit of a panic to his game, and he calmed down throughout this game though, so that was good. So I want him to relax a little bit, and maybe he's still trying to come back from that, and maybe he's gonna stay like this, and maybe he's gonna figure it out, So I want to see relax a little bit, and I think those throws that were inaccurate, that were like everyone's looking at each other like, who's that to? That comes on in the bad mechanics, but the bad mechanics come from the little bit of panicking too early. So it's kind of the things kind of mixed together there. So other than that, and when they let him unleash the ball downfield to Jalen, wow, that looked beautiful by both sides there. Being able to, I know Elmer Wilson got wide open on that play, but being able to get him the ball instantly and understand it. There's a lot of even good quarterbacks that just sometimes just don't see those things for some reason. It's confusing. So, I mean, he saw it at least. He racked up a good amount of free yards there, but at least he saw it. So, some things to work on still. I'm a little concerned on why he's the backup. It's almost feel like, I know he's hurt. He hurt his ribs. I think he's recovered from that. Maybe not fully. Hurt his finger. So, he's out. But it turns out it's kind of more of a benching, because he's fine, but he's the backup. So that's the little concerning part, but I still want to say, and I'm the guy that always writes a quarterback off pretty early, and I've been right doing so because it's pretty easy once you see a quarterback gets a certain amount of reps in the NFL, it's pretty easy to tell if he's good or not. Tua, I definitely still think it's to be determined. Can he overcome? To me, he's still overcoming that bad hip injury, but and now he's got more injuries, and that's where you can doubt him. Staying healthy and kind of getting out of it, getting some confidence back, you can doubt him in that category. I don't think you can doubt his talent, but what the concerning part is why he's kind of benched, and people will say he's not benched, he's hurt, but it kind of felt like that. So that kind of makes you doubt him a little bit more. But getting thrown in that situation. I know the defense really won the game, but getting thrown in that situation and doing what he did, it's still impressive. There was a time in this game where it felt like the Dolphins could still lose. They were in the lead most of this game, but it felt like they could still lose. It kind of popped in my head, and and it was right when the defense, got the Ravens offense off the field. They got to stop, and it popped in my head, because I think it was 6-3 or 9-3 at that point. I think it was 9. And it popped in my head that, man, if the Dolphins lose this game with this defensive performance, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be bad. And if it was kind of possible, it didn't really feel like that at the end. So they got to get the offense together. Offensive line did struggle a little bit, something I didn't touch on. Offensive line could be better. They got to get the quarterback situation under control. Again, Tua still has upside. I'm not going to say he's going to be great. He's going to live up to that top pick that he was. Definitely not saying that. I still think he could be a little bit better. Talent's still there. But yeah, the offense has got to be a little better. So that's a knock on the Dolphins, I guess. But again, dominant defensive performance. Kind of refreshing to see a defense go out there like that. In a game like this, I know it's in Miami Thursday night, but a game head-to-head, it just looks like the Dolphins are way better than the Ravens. And who's the better team? The Ravens are the better team, no question. But it head-to-head there, so we learn a bit, what the strengths and weaknesses of these teams are, and definitely interesting going forward to see, what the Dolphins can do. If the Dolphins, had Deshaun Watson right now, if they pulled that trigger, we'd be thinking about them making a major comeback for the playoffs, that wild card spot possibly, because the defense can do it now. Even though I don't expect them to be that lights out every week, I definitely would not expect that. But wild game. There's been a lot of upsets the last couple weeks. We might be in store for some more on Sunday and maybe Monday night. Can't wait to see them. Join us for all of our content covering it. Be much appreciated. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow our Twitter. A lot going on there. Link down below. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.